Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blueberry Flutes. Most of you know us already and have found us on our Facebook page, Blueberry Flutes or Blueberry Arts, which is where we're found all over the web. Of course, blueberryflutes.com is our website, which is where we sell Native American flutes and flute making materials, which you'll get to learn a little bit more about. What I have done today is I found me a piece of river cane that I really liked that looked like it's plenty dry enough already to make a flute out of. Now, when I choose a material to make a flute out of, I like to pick something that suits my needs, but is also one that suits environmental needs. In the case of river cane, thinning out the patch actually makes it grow better. So I'm helping the cane patch a little bit by taking this dead piece out. In addition to that, the dead river cane is actually a better material for making flutes. Not only is it harder already and more solid, but it is dried out and a little less likely to crack. River cane, of course, as you probably know, has a problem cracking if you don't treat it properly, which we usually do by oiling and waxing. And these days we don't even sell river cane flutes on our website just in case. We do have sawgrass flutes, which are another indigenous species of cane. There's some, I know I passed walking back through this trail earlier, but it wasn't large enough, and of course it is very seasonal. In the wintertime it looks like it's pretty dead in a lot of cases. And when I say dead, I mean flat to the ground, whereas this stuff here is still standing up. And river cane, in addition, will die like this piece has just gone because it may have broken earlier or because it just something happened. Usually it's some outside stimuli, bug bit into it, somebody stepped on it, a squirrel bent it when it was young, and it grew that way for a while, and then it got too much weight on it and collapsed. Anything can happen. When it compromises the link, it's pretty much ready to go. So what we're going to do is make a flute out of this, and I've chosen river cane because, number one, it's hollow already. Number two, it's a convenient plant that I know doesn't, it's not poisonous, it's non-toxic. Some plants that you find when you're walking out in the woods and in the trails, some of the weeds that you find may be hollow, which is great, but unfortunately a lot of them are poisonous. So you got to learn what's safe and what's not safe. And of course, river cane doesn't grow everywhere. Sawgrass does. Now, mind you, sawgrass is available everywhere, and we've got other videos you can watch on where to find it. What we're going to do is make a flute out of this and see what we can come out with. You know, I've had this pocket knife for such a long time, I remembered to sharpen it, which is amazing. But my dad used to carry his pocket knife everywhere, and when we got ready to eat something, this one here ain't very pretty, it's got some kind of gummy stuff all over it. But we would get ready to eat something, my mom would be like, "Do you have a knife?" My dad would say, "Yeah, here's this one. I haven't skinned a snake with it today." Which is kind of one of those things. But anyway, let's see. Let me go ahead and just cut some of this stuff here. You can score river cane and sawgrass like you do PVC with just making a round and round type of motion. And you can snap it eventually and be able to see that you've got some fibers in there, but it'll be good. I think it'll make a good flute. Some of this might take a minute. You might decide to watch it in fast motion. I don't know. Not too shabby. At this point, I should probably thank Home Depot for letting me buy this bucket that I'm sitting on. Thank you all for letting me purchase something from your store. Oh, there's a kingfisher behind me there. One more piece. Let's see. I guess I should snap it this way. Let's see. If I just had something hard like a rock, I could set this on, but I'll just do it down here in the grass. I'll just snap that all off first. pre-cut piece there helped me out quite a bit. Save those two dudes there for later. Now, wouldn't it have been handy if I had brought my tape measure with me, or ruler, to determine how big or where to place the fingerings on this guy? Look how smooth it's turned out pretty good. It's just a matter of taking your time, cleaning it out. How about that? Not too shabby for something I just broke off. But a lot of you might think to yourself, well, how are you going to determine where the fingerings go? That's something, part of the reason I wanted to come out and make this video for you guys is because, and gals, thank y'all. I wanted to show you that even if you don't have a measuring tape or anything of the sort, you can still make flutes without any kind of measurements. Of course, the ideal thing would be to have a flute this size that is an example of a flute we can make this size, and hold it beside it, and then as you hold the two of them beside one another, you know, you can measure and line it up and dot your I's and cross your T's. Or, you know, second really good option is to have, for example, a copy of my book, which has all the schematics in the back of it for different diameters and what to do with this and what to do with that kind of thing. A lot of people have asked me to make a video talking about knuckle spacings and finger sizes and all this kind of stuff. And the reason I have avoided it for so long is because I don't want to perpetuate a stereotype. A lot of people believe that all Native Americans live in a teepee, or all of them have a big feather bustled headdress, or that we all put our hands up and say how. Most of my videos you'll see me put my hand up, but I'm not perpetuating a stereotype by any means. And the little finger lengths and knuckle joints and spacings between the flute like that doesn't always work. That's an idea that probably most indigenous peoples, and of course most peoples, have used for something. I myself, back in the day when I would go out and cut river cane to make one or two flutes like we did in the old days, I would grab the piece of cane right here at my wrist and measure it between my wrist and my elbow, and that was big enough to make the kinds of flutes that I made at the time. Unfortunately, that information of my wrist and elbow measurement that I used leaked out, and a lot of people take it as how everybody makes flutes, and it's not anything like that. That was only at that time in my life was it convenient. Today, I can usually see just about where the holes need to be placed on a flute to make it play. And I always think back to what my granddad said, and even before we started to make this video, I was thinking to myself, you know, I've got to tell them that you can place the fingerings just about anywhere. It's a matter of learning to tune it and tuning it the way you need it to be tuned. That's what it takes to make it sound good. So we're going to go ahead and follow that pattern and see what can come up with it. This technique of drilling holes may not be a safe one, especially if you keep your finger right underneath your knife there. That's a bad idea, by the way. A lot of times when my face is off camera like this, I look at my camera person and see if what I'm saying is funny enough, because I can always tell. Sometimes y'all can tell when the camera moves, if it's funny enough. So this is going to be my first fingering. When I made the video of making a flute in the park with my pocket knife, I don't know if it's got as many views as some of my other videos, but I did one other thing that really helped out a lot, and that is I sharpened a twig and turned it into a tool. This is not uncommon, not unheard of. It's the reason you don't find a lot of historical tools laying around, because some of them just fell to the wayside of time. So I think that looks good there. The one thing about these fingerings, that when you're making them with a pocket knife instead of with an actual tool, is that there are always going to be some fiber inside of it, and the larger you make the hole, or the closer the hole is to one of the true widths of your blade, the more likely you are to crack the flute doing it like this. If you put too much pressure on it and not enough round and round like I'm doing here, you'll tend to pry it open, and you don't want to do that. That's a bad thing to do if you're trying to make a flute. It looks like some of our favorite mosquito friends have come out to visit us. That was making a little bit of a sound there when I twist it. I'm not making a cracking sound, just kind of a thump, 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 which means I probably don't need to twist it too much more. I'll have to make me a little stick tool here in just a second to help clean those up. They don't look too shabby. Coming along. Okay, so I've just about finished cleaning the holes out a little bit and enlarged them just a little bit. Not too bad with my knife. It's a little kind of archaic looking. Looks like maybe a third grader did it, but, well, third grader in my time, I guess it'd be about 10th grader today. Kids aren't allowed to have knives anymore, are they? Let's see, I'm going to make me a reamer for these holes to make sure that they are a little cleaner looking than what they currently are, because right now I'm not real super thrilled about how clean they're looking there. But if you notice, running a little kind of a reamer through there, it helped clean up some of the fibers, you can see. The stick here may not be the best, but it is working. Let me go ahead and clip the end of that. There we go. Just cleaning this area off a little bit to try to make sure the air escapes properly and produces a good sounding tone. Back to what I was saying about the size of the fingerings and their placement and everything. Those of you who haven't seen one of my videos on making a 4-hole whistle, when my granddad, Cherokee grandfather, taught me how to make that, he said just to place the fingerings wherever you wanted to. And I think that was really good advice at the time. It's something I needed to hear, and because at that time I was still one of those people, oh my God, where do you put the fingerings? I'm going to be lost. Well, no, you know, I've come so far, right? I've heard people say that too. In our YouTube comments, they say, well, you know, I've already done this, but I don't know where to place the fingerings. These days, on making wooden flutes, I prefer to put the fingerings in it before I make the flute. So, but with this, it's already hollow, which is another comment I've had lately, and I had to help somebody figure out. River cane is a species of bamboo. It's indigenous to the Americas, and it grows hollow, just like that. And wherever there is a link, there is a solid partition inside of it. And that link is going to help us. The reason I placed it right here is because we're going to make our sound hole area around this, and that's going to help us out a lot. So that's actually our next step. Just want to make sure these fingerings look pretty good. Okay, so the next part is going to be making the sound hole and the air supply hole. And those kind of things are something that take a little level of precision, but as long as I follow this same path the way that I did when I made the flute in the park, I think I'll turn out with something pretty good. I really don't want to cut myself again. As a woodworker, you can imagine I have got scars all over my hands. Cut off one digit, it's that one. They stitched it back on pretty good. Let's see. And then just kind of doing this number here. And now, because of the growth of the limb and the way that it's shaped, I'm going to turn it this way and try to peel up some of that. Let's see. There we go. If I did it the other way, I might would have a little bit of problem. getting over that link, but going this direction, it's not so bad. How about that? Stopped right there like I wanted it to. As you may guess, that doesn't always happen. But nice flat, what is it all you people call it that don't make flutes? Is that a sack? Sometimes using phrases like that makes me uncomfortable. Okay. Okay, I think that's not really too bad. Now, two things that I have to do is I have to make an air supply hole somewhere in this general vicinity, without cracking the flute preferably. And then I also have to make a sound hole, likewise, preferably without cracking the flute. And by the looks of it, I'm going to need to use one of my fancy hole reaming tools here in just a second to clean this up a little bit, because it's not very pretty. Here's an interesting bug if you want to take a look at him. This guy here is very neat to me. In South and Central America, they call it a kissing bug. Here, we just call it a masked hunter. It's in the same family as stink bugs. And in South America, if one of those bites you in your sleep, they usually defecate on you, and then if you scratch that into your bloodstream, well, you might have some problems. You would definitely have to go to the hospital immediately and hope that that hospital has a cure for it. Up here, they have the same ability, they just don't defecate on us after they bite us, and it's pretty handy. From what I understand, that little bug, that masked hunter, is the one that lays its eggs inside of our beds, and we call them bed bugs. Their little egg stays in a state that they just like to keep warm and bite you. And if I'm understanding right, the young don't carry the deadly bacteria that dissolve your heart that the old do, but the old eventually have a bacteria in their gullet or in their gut that makes them dissolve your heart after they bite you. You have a little bit of time, I'm not sure how long. Quickly checking out stuff like that on Wikipedia or some kind of agency website that knows about what kissing bugs are, or the masked hunter, is definitely worth a look-see. So we're getting really close here. We've got what looks like a reasonable air supply hole, but it's not putting out any air yet, so we got to do that still. And then we have a sound hole, which does have the ability, looks like, to meet the inside of the flute there. Let me grab my little reaming stick here. So, let's see here. We have some air coming out of it. That's a positive thing. We need to kind of shape this one here a little bit. I prefer to have my sound holes kind of square. And the reason I prefer that is because a nice flat edge vibrates in a certain kind of way consistently. And that kind of thing is something you want to happen when you're making a flute. Can you make a round sound hole? Yes, I've made videos making flutes with round sound holes, and they sound just fine. But, like I say, consistency-wise, I stick with this. It looks like I've got some fiber in there too that I'm going to have to clean out with some kind of cleaning rod here in just a minute. You know, if mosquitoes would only go up in there and fly around and clean that stuff out for me, it'd be great. Instead of biting me. I don't know if y'all can hear the sound of those frogs there in the background, but that's the kind of thing I grew up with. Where I was a child, I lived off in the swamps, and I got to hear that kind of thing every night. It seems strange to me that sound really freaks some people out. I personally know people who had bought property and left it because it had frogs on it making that noise, and this just puts me to sleep. I mean, I love it. It's very relaxing. Reminds me of my childhood and makes me comfortable. And if I get hungry, I'll go out and catch me a couple of them. Just testing the camera person here, by the way. Okay, so let's set this down and clean this rod a little bit so that we can use it to ream out the hole maybe in a little bit more of a square way if we can. Okay. This looks like it was a piece of oak or some type of hardwood. Maybe it was a gum. There's a lot of gum trees out here where I'm at right now. But things like oak and gum are quite rigid, and that's handy if you're making a shape a certain way. Let's see. Okay, I think that might work. Maybe I need to make the hole just a little bit bigger, or make my tool just a little bit smaller. Here in the southeast of the United States, river cane isn't plentiful like it once was, but just like it is all over the world, bamboo is everywhere. Everybody's neighbor. It's in your yard. If it's in your neighbor's yard, chances are it's in your yard. You just haven't seen it yet. Bamboo is a very invasive plant, most of the species that I've run into anyway, and likewise, it can grow just about everywhere. It's a rhizome type of plant, which means a little root in it that carries the whole species of plant with it. You can cut up some of that rhizome and bury it somewhere, and it'll make more bamboo. I'm going to blow this out here real quick. Oh, I see one little piece. I need to clean up some. There we go. I think that's pretty good. You don't want to restrict your airflow with anything, so I kind of, as best I could with my pocket knife here, chiseled this down in order to make a little sharp edge if I could. Just try to clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to try to blow that out. Well, might as well go ahead and clean this while I'm at it. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned several times, if you make a round sound hole, you should make a round air supply hole. Likewise, if you make square air supply or square sound holes, you need to make a square air supply hole. It's helpful. It's not required. Flute will still make a sound, but so that the air doesn't change its angle or direction or have any unusual turbulence, it's best if the holes are roughly the same width. And in the case of these guys here, I think we're working with about 3/16 of an inch wide. That, you know, just guessing. It's not really super important. Remember what Granddad said. Just put them holes wherever you want to. So let's see if we can blow this out a little bit and maybe get some of this fiber to come out. Yeah, some of it's still stuck up in there a little bit. A lot of it come out. I think that was probably, well, still one little piece. So let's try my tool here real quick, and after that, there we go. That's a lot nicer. Nice and square. Anyway, in just a minute I may have to make a cleaning rod. Kind of something over here. I knew there was a reason I set in this area. There's all my tools laying around me here. So I'm going to set this guy down for a minute and see if I can't blow some of that out. long as it doesn't, there it comes. As long as it doesn't slow down the air travel, we're okay. You can see some of that pith inside of there, the fiber of the river cane. Y'all got to see some of that before I took it away. Oh, let's see. Here's something that looks like a cleaning rod, right? Now we shove this guy up in there. Don't want to get it stuck. Twist it around a little bit. Maybe loosen up some of them fibers. That's better. Oh yeah, that's a world of difference. I think it would play at that level, but a little bit more fiber here to get out if I can. I think that was quite a bit of it. Let's see if we can get some of this out of this end. Drop the knife. Piece of my cleaning rod there came out, but it looks like all of the fiber came out as well. There we go. So the last little part here is a part that most people, at least hopefully, I would like to say anyway, used to have problems making, but today I've got so many videos on YouTube on the subject that I hope that you guys don't have any difficulty learning how to do this. This is the track area of the flute, and it's not that difficult to make. It's just a matter of taking your time and scraping it down how you want it to be. Now, I like to use tools to do this these days, as you'll see in some of our other videos. We've got all kinds of burning rods that I make. We sell some of them actually for flute making. You guys want to learn how to make flutes? We have all kinds of burning tools to do this with. We have different kinds of drills that we use for the process and everything. It's just a matter of getting the right tool to do it and knowing how to use that tool. So let me see if I can do this a little bit. I don't want to cut myself again. I always say that. I don't want to cut myself again. So it seems like I cut myself quite a bit. It's not that I'm not skilled at what it is I'm doing. I just try to push that little extra edge, you know. So let's see. Also, it's a good idea to learn how to control your tools if you're making something that requires a sharp tool like this one. You gotta learn how to control that kind of stuff so that you don't get hurt in the process. That's part of the reason we use some of the tools we do today. I guess we haven't got burnt in a couple of days in the shop, right? The burning tools are very clean at cleaning out this kind of an area here. There's a big mosquito. Boop. Caught you. Now go bite somebody else. And let's see. I think that's not too bad. Let's scrape it just a little bit here, see what I feel like. It looks like it's good. Okay. Scrape it one more time in the opposite direction. Get that other edge there. That's got quite a bit of it. Now, I've seen some of this fiber blow in there. I better try to get it out. Okay, that should produce a sound. I would think it would anyway. Let's see, one little piece in here too. Like there's never an ending point to this. You can keep on saying, I've just got one more thing to do. Let's see, this block, probably ought to scratch up the edge a little bit so it's nice and straight like I did on the mouthpiece of the flute, because we would want to have a clean edge there for the sound to come out of. Now this is a piece of the inside of the river cane, whereas this is the outside. This inside piece being concave may help us some, but I don't know yet. We might want it flat. So let's see if it's too airy sounding or what have you. It's a little airy. So I'm just going to take some of this stuff here out so that it's a little flatter. Of course, there is another way to do this. And that is, I could have split it a little differently. I could split it closer to the outside of the cane instead of the inside of it. But knowing that there was going to be a little trough in there, I wanted to test it and see if it would help us any, because sometimes that little trough will make your flute quite a bit louder. In the case of using just a pocket knife here, oh, a piece of river cane cut me right there. You can tell it wasn't my knife because I'm holding the knife by the back of the edge here. Anyway, so let's see. Getting close. Occupational hazard too. If you're going to use a knife to carve something, chances are that something is pretty firm, and you need to consider that it might cut you. Yeah, stop bleeding pretty good. Y'all didn't see that. Okay. There we go. I think that's got us. And let's see if that helped out any. I think that's pretty good. I know it's a little airy, but I am making this with a pocket knife. Now, I have to admit, I did cheat. I cut this piece of leather earlier thinking, hey, I'm going to go out in the woods and make a flute. There's no cows for me to skin out there and tan their hide. And I don't have time to braid some tree bark into a piece of rope. My wife wasn't going to let me use my shoelaces, so I'm just kidding. It was her idea. I said, no, not my shoelaces. Okay, let's see if this does anything like we hoped it would. So all the notes are a little bit on the high side there. I think I need, or excuse me, the bottom note is on the high side and the fingerings are a little bit on the low end. So I'm going to hollow them out for another second and see if that helps any. Let's see what this sounds like here. It still sounds like the bottom note's a little sharp and the fingerings are a little flat. So to make the fingerings less flat and to come into tone with the bottom note, I'm going to make them just a little bit larger in diameter. This is going to allow more air to escape from each one of the fingerings, and the more air that escapes, the higher the note is going to go. So we'll do this, and then I might find me another stick and wring them out just for a split second. So that way they are a little bit more round and larger opening in diameter there than what they were. I think that's probably going to be it there. Let's see. There's a stick. Oh, that's a pine stick. So I had to go and get me a stick here that I could use. My other stick was a little bit on the used up side. This one here is a little bit soft, which might not be as good, but let's see. We'll just use it to clean these holes just a little bit so we can, yeah, that helped a little bit. Just get some of those fibers out of there. Keep thinking to myself, if I just had my this with me, or if I just had one of those with me, let's see, that's not too bad. I'm going to blow it out. So that's not too shabby for something made with just a pocket knife and a couple of pieces of material laying around. I just wanted to show you guys that this is the easiest thing in the world to do, to make a musical instrument. It's also, Native American flute is one of the easiest instruments in the world to play, and I think, you know, that's definitely goes without saying. I used to tell people that by the time the second week of somebody having a Native American flute rolls around, they have already decided to cut an album. And I'm reminded of this all the time. It's an instrument that gives you a great deal of confidence and satisfaction, and certainly is a wonderful, wonderful tool and friend to have around with you at all times. So I know you guys will be able to make a flute on your own. If you haven't done it yet, you probably will very soon, if not someday, and someday soon, I hope. Thank you guys very much again for watching our YouTube channel here, Blue Bear Flutes. Of course, you can find us on our website, bluebearflutes.com, as I mentioned earlier, and our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and whatever else there is in the world. We're all around. Please let us know what you think about this in the comments, and subscribe to us if you will. You might be surprised what kind of videos we come up with next. So anyway, this is a fine example of, in my opinion, a Native American flute made, you know, out in the world, in the environment here, with just very limited resources. And I think that if I can do it with this, probably you can do it with just about anything. But like I said, thank you guys very much again. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on our website and subscribe to us there. There's actually a subscribe button down at the bottom where you can get updates and coupons and all kinds of stuff that we try to help out with, and join the Blue Bear Flutes family. You guys take care. Thanks so much again. Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out. Well, until next time. Thank you guys very much for watching our videos. We appreciate you greatly. We wouldn't do this if it wasn't for you watching. I would like to ask you, if you get a chance, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, because it helps to keep everything going smooth here. Plus, you'll get the newest videos that we have ready for you to see when they come out. So that's kind of a nice little thing there. I would like to remind you, if you have wanted to make Native American flutes, or really any kind of musical instruments, especially flutes, that our book here, The Art of Native American Flute Making by Charlie and Jesse Mato-Toyela, is really a great way to keep up with that. It's got everything from schematics inside for different fingerings, where to place the holes. It's in metric as well as in the US and English standard, as we call it. It's even got some little tricks and tips on how to get the air channel to sound right, which is something that in the Native American flute world is one of the, probably considered to be one of the most difficult things to do. But if it's that, or you just want to learn how to make something really unique and interesting, there's a lot of that in there too. That and a lot more. But anyway, I thank you guys again for watching our videos. If you would subscribe to us, join the Blue Bear Flutes family, and we appreciate you very much. Y'all take care.